Joining us now, Republican Congressman, member of the January 6th committee, Adam Kinzinger. Congressman, I want to get to Ray Epps in a second, but first I want to talk about this breaking news. Your committee sending a letter to your leader, Kevin McCarthy, the House Republican leader. Have you heard from McCarthy? Do you think he'll cooperate?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything yet. I certainly hope he does. Do I think he will? We'll see. But, you know, holding a title in Congress doesn't make you exempt from having to be, you know, to bring information you may have related to such a serious investigation. It's obviously been reported that the president called him on January 6th and said, Kevin, obviously these people care more about the election than you do. That's information we want to talk to him about. So certainly hope he does voluntarily cooperate. After all, it's the body he serves in doing the work that the body has been charged with doing. We'll see. Have to see how it goes.
Let's assume the worst about Kevin McCarthy for a second. Just I don't know why I would do that, but let me just play that game. Would the committee subpoena him if he opts to not voluntarily tell you the truth?
Yeah, I think as the chairman said, it's on the table. You know, obviously there's a number of members that would possibly face this. Again, you're not exempt from having to come and testify. That's an issue we're working through as a committee and figuring out what can these people provide that we can or can't get somewhere else, and then we'll make a decision from there.
What do you want to ask him? The letter seemed to suggest that he knew that there was a scheme to overturn the election by not counting the electoral votes.
Well, there's a number of things I'm curious about. What did he know prior to January 6th? I mean, on a call with him on January 1st, I directly told him that there was going to be violence. I predicted violence, and he very much dismissed it and just said next caller. You know, it was a large conference call. He made the decision to object to the electors. All that led up to January 6th. They convinced people that, in fact, January 6th was some patriotic duty to fight against the stolen election. And of course, he's, you know, very close with the former president. He had the conversation on that day and maybe more. And I think that's of interest to the committee as we get to the bottom of what happened on that day and what led up to that day.
Your committee also talked with former White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany. Did she have anything to contribute that you didn't know before?
I'm not going to, you know, talk about what was testified to or what wasn't. I'll just say that as the subpoena required, she appeared, and we'll go from there. I'm sure as information, as folks put the pieces of this puzzle together, we'll find out the bigger picture.
Let's turn to the Ray Epps conspiracy theory. Let's watch a clip of Epps. There is this clip of Epps the night before the insurrection and then during the insurrection. The night before, he says, tomorrow we need to go to the Capitol peacefully. And then on January 6th, he says, take a step back, we're holding ground, we don't want to get hurt. And the crowd is chanting, Fed, Fed, Fed. Now, you tweeted a rather colorful thread about this baseless conspiracy. You said, quote, he didn't enter the Capitol on January 6th and was removed from the most wanted list because apparently he broke no laws. I'm pretty sure the FBI wouldn't be dumb enough to put their own agent on a wanted list. What do you make of this? And you have, you know, Republican colleagues of yours in the House and Ted Cruz in the Senate pushing out this nonsense, and I don't even understand why.
So this is part of this whole, like, flood the zone with confusion, with conspiracy. In fact, now the reaction is, you know, I don't know, why wasn't he arrested? Because he did say go into the Capitol. And what happens is anytime you call them out on BS, there's a circular argument in one way or the other. The truth is the conspiracy said that Ray Epps was an FBI agent. Ray Epps is not an FBI agent. And that is the crux of this FBI conspiracy, that somehow maybe their own base is too stupid to be able to resist somehow an FBI-inspired insurrection. That's the kind of garbage we're dealing with. And this is new. His name is new to a lot of people. But for about the last 3 months, it's been growing on right-wing Twitter and conspiracy blogs to the point where, you know, whatever percent of the American people actually take it as fact that Ray Epps was an FBI agent. He was not. And this was mainstreamed yesterday when Ted Cruz asked specifically to the FBI about Ray Epps. They can't comment, as they don't about individual cases, and that was seen as even further of a conspiracy. This is why conspiracy theories can't be ignored anymore with this new kind of social media environment. They have to be nipped in their infancy.
Well, and also because you have people who you would think would know better, like U.S. senators and members of the House, mainstreaming this stuff. Speaking of mainstreaming this stuff, I want to get your reaction to something I saw today that was kind of shocking. The mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, put out a tweet about new regulations in D.C. You have to show proof of vaccination if you go to a restaurant, and also there's a masking order. Your Republican House colleague, Congressman Warren Davidson of Ohio, responded to that with a picture of Nazi imagery of a Nazi order, and he wrote, "This has been done before, hashtag do not comply." He added a comment, "Let's recall that the Nazis dehumanized Jewish people before segregating them." Congressman Dean Phillips, I should note, who's a Democrat and Jewish, he confronted Davidson on the floor of the House today, and he told me, and he said I could report this, I told him that the use of such imagery wasn't just repugnant and dangerous and a false equivalency, but deeply offensive and painful for Jewish people. I said I would debate mandates and tyranny wherever he wishes, but there's no debate on the offensiveness of his post. He could have cared less. What's your reaction?
I mean, look, he's going to raise money on this. He's going to be known. This is the new politics. It's not about leading anymore. It's about how can we outrage the other person that just had the greatest outrage. Look, you can disagree with vaccine mandates in restaurants. You know, there's some of it I disagree with, but to say that that's somehow equivalent to Adolf Hitler early stages, you know, I would encourage Warren or anybody else to go back and maybe take a history lesson of what happened in World War II, what happened to 6 million Jews. It is insane. You know, the government wants to keep you healthy. I'm going to tell you, the Nazis weren't interested in keeping the Jewish people healthy. That's a very basic start to all of this. And if we go down this level as a party, shame on us. As we go down this level as a people, shame on us. And every Republican leader needs to be condemning that kind of BS right now and saying that there's no place for that. Instead, they're talking about debating whether or not Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger should be Republicans and not somebody like Warren Davidson tweeting conspiracies and Nazi imagery.
Congressman Adam Kinzinger, Republican of Illinois, thank you so much. Appreciate your time, sir.